Let's get a look at the bigger picture. Pete Najarian's here, co-owner at Market Rebellion. Pete, good to see you. How have you been feeling? What's going on with these markets this summer?
Yeah, all is great. And I was just at a great concert, Minnesota State Fair going on here. So it's pretty exciting. I'm back here in Minnesota. It's an interesting market that we're looking at. I was loving listening to what Kevin had to say because he and I are oftentimes very much on the same side of the boat, so to speak. And I think when you really look at where we were August 5th to where we've gotten to now, has been absolutely extraordinary. The volatility that's been there and all of the options volume that has been absolutely exploding this entire year, but August having been probably one of the best months ever. Now, because of that, I find it very interesting, though, because normally you get into August and suddenly everybody is just finishing up that last vacation, that last trip to the beach and all the rest of it before school really gets going. And we aren't seeing that at all. We're seeing volumes of almost 50 plus million every single day. And so that says a lot to me about where people are focused and what they're looking at in the markets today.
Yeah, understood. I mean, and today, for example, we have oil moving a little higher, concerns about Libya, concerns about, the Middle East, everything that's going on there. We're waiting on inflation. We're waiting on some retail stores. We're waiting on Nvidia. So, do we expect volatility in this market? You mentioned August 5th. And, some people thought some people dumped out and then they would have missed an incredible run. What do you think is the plan here?
Yeah, well, and by the way, to your point about jumping out, that expression people use of sell in May and go away, it's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. And if you had done that, you would have missed 600 points in the S&P. So it gives you a little bit of an idea. I think that when you're looking for catalysts, last week, of course, everything was about Jackson Hole. Everything really started and ended with the Fed. This week, I think it kind of begins and ends also with Nvidia. And I'm not trying to put too much on it, but the expectations are extremely high. We know what the stock has done. The recovery that it's made in the last couple of weeks, when it got underneath 90 and all the way back up to 130, 140 is its high. So it's been an incredible run, but you can see, like on a day like today, what the influence of Nvidia really truly is. When you look at the NASDAQ and even look over at the Dow just couldn't hold on any longer. So much of the Dow is not Nvidia, but it's tech related, and anything connected at all with Nvidia is certainly getting pulled down along the way today, at least with that. And that's why I think we've seen that big correction in the Dow. But the NASDAQ just continues to flow to the downside. You can credit technology. You can really credit the semiconductors. They're down a little over 2% so far today.
Right, understood. When people talk to you about financials, do you think this is a group that has potential, even though we may see rates coming down some?
Yeah, and I do expect those rates to come down, but it's not about the rates that I would be concerned about at all with the financials. What I love about the financials is the investment banking side. And when you look at JP Morgan, you look at Goldman Sachs, you look at Citigroup and many of the other names that are out there, one of the reasons I think that they've done so well this year and have continued, and I think will continue in the second half of this year, is directly related to that and all of the different businesses that they've got and the massive amounts of, whether it's IPOs or M&A, all of that, you put it all together, you can see incredible profits that are rolling into so many different names out there, 50% or higher. It just seems like the strength that we are seeing from that is something I think it's worthwhile. I think it's worth holding on to. I love Goldman Sachs. I love JP Morgan right down here. I'd like to see Citi do a little bit more. But if you look at Citi back in late October of last year to where it is today, I think a lot of people would be shocked. They probably are kind of bored. They don't think that name is really doing a whole lot. It actually has really, really recovered and still has a lot of room, I think, to the upside.
Does this expand into fintech or credit cards or things like that, or is it more the investment banking side of things, right? You did mention that.
I believe it is the investment banking side. It's just so massive what they've been able to accomplish already year to date. And I think, like I say, in the second half, I think it'll just continue. And it's something that you just don't get that. The credit card's different sort of a story. I think there is going to be something someday that's going to be pretty worrisome because of the debt that we all see on credit cards. And it's getting to be a monstrous number, and it gets a little bit bigger every month or every quarter. It's just that part's a little bit scary for me. But from the financials right now, any of them that are involved in the investment banking side, that's somebody I would want to put myself into the position to be long some of those, because yes, they're going to take a hit here and there, each and every day. But I think overall, I think that is just an area in the financials that's just going to continue to move from that lower level to the lower left to the upper right.
Yeah, I know you're always talking about options. That's been your thing. I think more and more people are becoming more sophisticated with their trading, and we're seeing record options volume, to your point, right? How does that fit into trading in this kind of environment?
In a lot of ways, really well. Let's be honest. When we had that big spike on August 5th, we actually hit 65 in the pre-market for the volatility index. And then we started to drop, and it was a continual drop very rapidly. And here we are once again. We find ourselves actually a little bit higher than we were in July, or excuse me, a little bit lower than we were in July. July was even a little bit of a higher range, but you could call the range we're in right now probably 14 to 17. Here today, we're sitting there at about a 16 on the VIX. I think that gives you a really good picture of where we are, and also the opportunity when you look at options. A lot of that is based upon what does the volatility look like, and obviously more in the individual names than the VIX itself, which is the S&P. But it's been something where it's come down and it's come down, and the volumes each and every day just are absolutely extraordinary. I'm surprised because of the fact that we've seen this growing without any pullback. And, Nicole, I've been around for a while now. When I was first on the trading floors in 1993, we were trading 700 and some odd thousand options per day. Now the average is 48 million. So it gives you a little bit of an idea. It's just been a growing part of the market, and I think that will continue to grow. These volumes are more than extraordinary. I look at it each and every day. We've been over 60 million on multiple occasions already. So there is something to be said of the use of options, and it's not always just speculation. Some of it is hedging. Some of it is trying to give yourself an opportunity to hold on to a stock. You buy some puts, you use that as kind of like an insurance policy. There's a lot of different trades that are going on. Most of them, I will say, are very short term, however.
Right, understood. Just a quick question, and I love how, you go back in time to the 1990s. How about, last but not least, just technology overall? I mean, we do hear a lot of folks thinking that maybe the market is overvalued, or tech in particular. We're waiting on Nvidia. Any advice to investors there for that group?
I think that you've just got to, there's partially your gut, but also just finding out as much information as you possibly can. And we all try to do that each and every day. But there is a lot to be said for that. You got to know what you're investing in. You got to know whether or not it's truly an investment, or is this a trade? And obviously, most of the trades within the option world are actually trades, not investments. But we are seeing more and more of it. As a matter of fact, Nicole, it's frequent to see names like Nvidia and some of the other very big names, Amazon and others, Google, where we've seen a lot of very deep in the money call buying, where people are trying to use the leverage and actually using it as stock itself, because they're deep enough in the money that that's actually what it's going to move like. We call it delta, and it's going to move right there with the stock. We're seeing more and more of that. So kind of a push away from the stock market and actually moving everything over into the option side.
Right. Pete, it's great to see you. Thank you so much for being on. Until next time,
I really
Pete
appreciate
Najarian.
it. It's great to see you too. It is. It's wonderful. Thanks.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Pete Najarian, Market Rebellion.